Mingus. Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome back to STSL Off the Track. We are now in the month of April, starting off a little bit slow in the monster truck industry, but the momentum is about to pick up. A lot of great action this past weekend, and lots to look forward to in the coming weekend. And today, I, Nophagen, am once again holding down the fort, but take a look at this. We have two different guests on the show today. One is a rookie, but first, we're going to be introducing a man who has not been on the show for a while, but let's make a big welcome back to Brett Knackley.
What's up, guys? I'm not a regular here. In fact, I've only done one episode ever, but yeah, I'm stoked to be back on.
And also, we have another guest with us. He is another Arizona man. He is the Jackinator.
What's up? I'm Jack. I've always liked to do, these kind of conversations with monster trucks, and I figured I'd try out something new today.
Well, glad you can join us for your first ever episode. We have a lot to unpack here. But first, let's take a look at what is going on in the sports world. So a few things to highlight from here. First of all, men's basketball. The Final Four has wrapped up. Starting off with our first Final Four game, which was number 3 Illinois taking on number 2 UConn. And it was the UConn Huskies getting the win 71-62. And in your other game, the Michigan Wolverines absolutely storming past the Arizona Wildcats 91-73, which to many surprise, even mine, I had Arizona winning it all this year, but Michigan getting the win by 18 points. And that momentum carried on in the national championship as Michigan are the national champions of men's basketball over UConn 69-63. The Wolverines' first NCAA men's championship in over 30 years. So, guys, I'll get you in on this first. I know some of you, I don't know how much you watch professional basketball, but how about this complete dominant stretch by Michigan to end off the season? What do you guys got to take away from that?
Very good, I guess. I don't want basketball, but cool.
Very moving commentary.
Great.
I've never been that much into sports, but I should probably feel pretty embarrassed on the behalf of Arizona getting destroyed.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. But on the other hand, what can you say about Michigan? They have been on a tear the whole tournament. So, very deserving of winning that national championship there. And we can't talk about March Madness without also talking about the women's tournament and the Final Four, as all the number 1 seeds made it to the Final Four. And your first game, the South Carolina Gamecocks steamrolled past the UConn Huskies 62-48. Meanwhile, in the other game, the UCLA Bruins defeat the Texas Longhorns in a close affair 51-44, which set up a national championship in Phoenix, Arizona between South Carolina and UCLA, and the Bruins are the national champions in women's basketball. And before we move on from the basketball side of things, I just want to highlight, or not really highlight, but it's a low light. The Tennessee Volunteers on both the men's and women's sides are tanking in the offseason. Almost all of the players that they have had are either going to graduate or they're just transferring out of the portal. A lot of recruits are backing out from their commitment. Just a very sad situation, and 2 players in particular that are leaving the Tennessee men's team are J.P. Estrella Jr. and Cade Phillips, who was injured for the majority of this season, but both these guys were projected to be starters next year, and now all of a sudden they don't want to be a part of this program anymore, which is embarrassing considering the high, prestigious reputation that the men's Volunteers and Lady Volunteers have had in basketball. Sad to see, but we're going to get things on a happier note now as we are transitioning into the NASCAR Cup Series, as they just had the Cookout 400 at the historic Martinsville Speedway. Well, actually, they did this last weekend, but it's still important to highlight Chase Elliott, your winner. Denny Hamlin finishing in second place, Joey Logano third, Ty Gibbs fourth, and William Byron in fifth. Their next race will be at Bristol Motor Speedway at the Food City 500. I would love to see a race at Bristol sometime, but unfortunately will not this weekend because of some truck jam plans that I have. So before we go into the events that we had this past weekend, is there anything that you guys would like to point out in terms of the sports world? Anything that might have stood out to you?
Not really. I've been mostly focused on the motorsports world, specifically Monster Jam, but very interesting stuff happening, especially was it the women's finals in Phoenix over there in Arizona. So, of course, got to shout out to our Arizona guys. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
we love the guys out in Arizona. And we'll have plenty of Arizona monster trucks to talk about before or after we get through a few of these events that happened this past weekend. So taking a look at the monster truck event list on Google Sheets made by Monster Truck Daily and more. We had one location for Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Live Glow and Fire, the international tour at the Liverpool, United Kingdom M&S Bank Arena. Internationals tour still in full effect. You also had Monster Trucks Havoc Live in Mesquite, Texas at the Gomez Western Wear Arena. This featured Johnny Davenport doing double duty, driving Ghost Rider and Girl Power. You also had Dylan Finley with King Crunch and Chris Davis in the Nitro Hornet. Malicious Monster Truck Insanity Tour. This is the Bill Payne Camp at Merced, California. Elbows Up with Joe Briggs. Identity Theft Gravedigger Miles Parker mixed up with Gavin Sell. Rockstar with Bill Payne. And Spitfire with Nick Jones behind the wheel. Oh boy, we have a bit to talk about this one. Monster Truck Wars at City of Industry, California. T-Rex, Colton Fowler, Shark Attack, Kaylee Engstrom, Outlaw, Brandon Pizzo, and the guy that stole the show this weekend and a part of the wall protection, Locomotive Colton Budd. Y'all probably have seen the video surface on social media. Monster Truck Daily was at this event. There was an instance, I'm sure you two have watched this, when Locomotive plowed right into the rock cement wall, took out a big chunk. What do you guys have to say about that? Another thing in the Monster Truck Wars.
classic wars, am I right?
The first thing we all thought is the second we saw that is usual suspects.
Yeah, and I mean, just for it to be Brandon Budd's son, too. I mean, it's time that we nerf wars. I mean, it's got to go, dude. It has to go. It is like if you ask me the worst monster truck tour, there's two that come to mind: Z Tour and Wars. And Z Tour, while the shows sucked and they didn't provide any entertainment and they were just a disaster, Wars actually is scandalous, and that makes it so much worse. Like, there's actual real bad people associated with. There's some good people too. Can't say everyone's bad, but there's some legitimately bad people in that tour. The driving is horrible, and the shows are scripted. So it doesn't get much worse than that.
Yeah, and I made the comment on that post as well. How is this tour still in business, considering how long that these controversial events that have happened over the better part of the last 3 or 4 years or so, and that's just all that's really come up to the surface. But yeah, all of that really makes me happier that I decided not to go to Monster Truck Wars in Lebanon, Tennessee at the James E. Ward Agricultural Center, which had Locomotive Justin Murphy, Outlaw with Roger Gager behind the wheel, Shark Attack, Jerry Ferrotter, and T-Rex with Devin Jones. A bigger field, so luckily nothing bad came out of this one. But we're going to move on from Wars, and now we're going to go to, Renegade Monster Trucks at Clearbrook, Virginia, Stonewall, Ruritan Fairgrounds. This had Illuminator, Daniel Donnelly, Jurassic Attack, Preston Collins, Stinger Unleashed, good old CJ Ratu, Toxic, Corey Snyder, Velociraptor, Preston Perez, Virginia Giant, Cliff Val behind the wheel. Now, I believe that Jackinator will have some stuff to say about this one. 2X Monster Trucks Live Tour at Chandler, Arizona at the Firebird Motorsports Park. Your lineup consists of 6 2 Extreme trucks, Bounty Hunter Jimmy Cretin, Brittle Jeremiah Paras, Jekyll and Hyde Corey Kinel, Roaring Rex Mike Nugent, Scarlet Bandit Don Cretin, and Sharkbite Dan the Man Dahlgren. Jackinator, what are your pointers and takeaways from 2X in Chandler, Arizona?
First thing that was... Sorry, you cut out for a second. The first thing about this event that was really exciting before it even started, usually Chandler only happens in January, but they came back again Saturday this event. Two-wheel, there was a lot of drivers struggling, but I believe Corey Kinel won. As would be expected, he had a great slap wheelie, great nose wheelie too, and Jimmy Cretin did the exact same crash as that moonwalk, and then he catches that front tire and he ends up rolling over. That was, I believe, the only rollover of the show. Racing, the finals was actually Jimmy Cretin versus Don Cretin, which was out. It was in Taco Bell. We did see Austin Minton do a stoppie in King Sling, which was out of the norm. That was one of my favorite parts of the whole show. And freestyle, everyone had some heaters, but I believe Corey Kinel won that as well. He had some great air in that run.
Yeah, in Chandler, Arizona, that Firebird Motorsports Park, it is a huge venue from what I've seen and all the action there in the past few years. But I would say those are cool highlights, but my favorite would probably be the video from our GOAT Zona Monsters. If you are a fan of 2X, this is for you. And you had Corey Kinel and Mike Nugent doing all the moves.
I gotta actually jump in here and say that was the low light of the weekend. That was not the highlight. That was definitely.
Oh my gosh. Well, great times for our Arizona boys over there with 2X Live Tour. And I'm glad you guys over there, especially on the West Coast, get a lot of 2X Live Tours. It's only a one tour promotion, and it is a very tight-knit group. They put on some good shows there. Jimmy Cretin and his camp going once again to Chandler, Arizona. But now we are going to transition into the Monster Jam events that have happened this weekend. And only 3 locations. It was not that busy of a week. You only had 3 shows this past weekend, and one of them was in Tupelo, Mississippi, the Cadence Bank Arena. And this is where Arena Series East set up shop, but not an official points weekend, as you only had 6 drivers out of the 8 that are on the series. You had MJ Solorio and Cody Saucier sitting out this weekend. So let's take a look at how these drivers did this past weekend. Try to get some more momentum whenever points competition actually opens back up. So JCB Racing results from Tupelo, Mississippi. Your Friday evening winner is Terminal Velocity and John Zimmer Jr. defeating Montana Robbins and the Plain Crazy. Your 2-wheel skills challenge winner is also Terminal Velocity. And winning freestyle is, Logan Ashline in Sparkle Smash gets the win in freestyle. Misses out on the overall by 1 point. Terminal Velocity gets it done. John Zimmer Jr. winning the first overall event championship of the weekend. And then Saturday afternoon, winning JCB Racing once again, it is Terminal Velocity getting the win, this time over another Robbins, Triton in Crazy Train. And Crazy Train gets revenge in the 2-wheel skills competition, gets the win there, and also wins freestyle. So take a look at this. Come on and ride the train. Triton Robbins is your Saturday afternoon overall event champion. Now, Saturday evening, the last event of the weekend, who's going to take the overall? JCB Racing. Terminal Velocity once again makes it to the finals, but is upset by Sparkle Smash. Logan Ashline starting off strong. 2-wheel skills challenge winner is once again Crazy Train. Gravedigger Kristen Anderson finally gets a win this weekend in freestyle. But look at this. I believe this is her first overall event championship in her career. Logan Ashline and the Sparkle Smash gets it done. 14 points. That is enough to get the win, but the points were close. I mean, all of the competition was separated by 5 points that night. And Logan Ashline, the one to come out on top. What do you guys got to say about this weekend in Tupelo? Things that really stood out to you?
Jack, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll say I didn't really get to see it much from these shows since they didn't get streamed, specifically the Arena series, but I definitely was very impressed by some of these. Again, of course, the talk of the weekend, Logan Ashline, who nearly pulled away with 2 overalls. That's a huge career achievement. Even your second, third year driving to get multiple in a weekend and to almost get multiple in your first full season is a huge deal.
Yeah, I got to follow that up. Logan is looked really promising to start her rookie season. And I know that she was nowhere close to Rookie of the Year award just because of a man named Chucky Pock III. But if it weren't for him, Logan would be, I'd say, the far and away favorite for Rookie of the Year. Yes, she is last in her tour, but the improvement that she's shown week after week has been really impressive. She's proven to be technical in racing, technical in skills, and now a great freestyler. So I see a very bright future for Logan Ashline.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, these rookie drivers there's a lot that have really stood out, and you've already mentioned Chucky Pockin, but hey, let's give credit where credit is due to a lot of these rookies out here, especially Logan Ashline, continues to improve throughout the season. And while this may not be a weekend that counts towards official points, that has got to be a huge momentum boost for Logan Ashline as she goes towards the back half of this season. So a lot to look out for her and everybody else on that tour. And now we're going to transition into a stadium tour that was in arenas for the weekend. And I'll pass this off to Brett. The Oakland, California, Oakland Arena. This is where Stadium Series West was at this weekend. So, Brett, take it away. What were the big things happening this weekend?
I got you. So April 3rd through 5th, Monster Jam invaded the inferior of the 2 Bay Area cities, but nonetheless, Oakland, California was an arena show that saw a stadium lineup. That lineup was an abbreviated version of Stadium West, consisting of Tyler Menninga and Gravedigger, Bari Musauer in Zombie Stars and Stripes, Jamie Gardner and El Toro Loco, Zach Gardner and Wildside, Fat Mike Christensen, 12-inch Mike in Bandana, Dalton Widener in Shell Shock, Bryce Kenny in the Tech Deck Rec Deck, and Caleb Blood in Sparkle Smash. Starting off with Friday evening's results, Monster Jam JCB Racing was won by Bari Musauer, Zombie Stars and Stripes. A little bit controversial. He actually got a second run because his first run, the turn code was not set in place. So kind of controversial there, but he ended up taking the win. Two-wheel skills was won by Tyler Menninga and Gravedigger. Freestyle, was won by Tyler Menninga and Gravedigger, who, with that win, also took the overall event championship. Which, that's going to be a recurring theme for these shows. So, stick with me. The second show, Saturday afternoon, saw Tyler Menninga winning JCB Racing, Tyler Menninga winning two-wheel skills, and Bari Musauer in the Stars and Stripes Zombie taking freestyle. Of course, overall going to Tyler Menninga. Moving over to the Saturday evening show, Bryce Kenny in Tech Deck Rec Deck takes the JCB Racing win with the fastest time of the weekend, 9.958, the only sub-10 second time. Tyler Menninga in Gravedigger wins skills. Caleb Blood in Sparkle Smash gets her only win of the weekend, taking freestyle, and Tyler Menninga in Gravedigger once again takes overall. And for our final event of the weekend, Sunday afternoon, Tyler Menninga in Gravedigger takes JCB Racing. Zach Gardner in Wildside gets his only win of the weekend, taking two-wheel skills. Bryce Kenny in Tech Deck Rec Deck hits the mini flip to take the freestyle competition. And once again, sweeping the weekend in overalls, Tyler Menninga in Gravedigger is your overall event champion with 21 points.
Yeah, not a whole lot to really say out of this weekend other than, well, Tyler Menninga, Mingus Mayhem, was on a roll once again. And for any of you curious people why I call it Mingus Mayhem instead of Menninga, one time I heard a Conversations with Scott Douglas episode when Ed Eckert, the OG Knoxville man, driver full bore, was on tour, or on the show, and he mentioned Tyler Menninga but called it Mingus. So that is why Mingus has always stuck with me. But that's besides the point. Just another weekend for some drivers to get some reps in. And it's good for a lot of those drivers, too, to stay on that side of the U.S., considering their next event will be at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, California this coming weekend. But that's to talk about later on the show. Jackinator, is there anything that stood out to you among this series of events?
I think that there were two highlights that have stuck with me. The first of them was we mentioned Zach Gardner's skills win. That one really impressed me because he pulled out that move that Fernando's been working on where he used that mini flip ramp to pop up the truck. Very hard move. I've tried to do it a billion times in BeamNG. It's super difficult, and I love to see more drivers giving it a try, and it really showed that Zach Garner, being in stadiums, has not lost the skills he learned in arenas. And then also, I can't remember the last time we saw a Bryce Kenny mini flip. I was super excited seeing that happen.
Yeah, that was cool. Bryce Kenny and Zach Garner standing out this weekend. I'm sure that those boys will be ready to tear it up once they get back to full-time stadium competition against the best of the best. Well, now, Jackinator, I'll stick it with you now because we're going to give you the only points tour that actually had points towards the standings. That is Monster Jam Freestyle Mania at the historic MVP Arena in Albany, New York. Take it away, Jackinator.
Albany, New York. Freestyle Mania just keeps getting more interesting every week, and this was no exception. Now, there were no live streams, so I do apologize if this is incorrect, but I do believe that the lineup was all the original drivers and all the correct FMX riders, but I could be wrong about that. But we start at Show 1, Friday evening, in JCB Racing. Ultimately, the finals would be a story of those middle-of-the-pack drivers trying to climb their way up. It would be Brianna Mahan versus Fernando Martinez, and Brianna would come out victorious. Moving into two-wheel skills, we have seen a lot of great things throughout the year from a lot of competitors, and some of those underdogs or kind of overlooked competitors making their way to the top. Tonio JCB Digatron takes home a win with a 9.4. But look out for those below because only about a point or a tenth of a point and a half behind that was Brandon Kalushka and Zombie. So keeping the competition very close. Tonio takes two-wheel skills. Moving into the FMX competition for a bit of a mix-up here, Chandler Hyder and Zombie would take best upright trick. He's been having some tough luck this season, but that was a big win for Team Zombie. And best trick for freestyle motocross, it would be on probably his 40th win of the season at this point. Scott Murray and Team Megalodon taking it home. In freestyle, Tony Oaks would continue his wow factor streak, taking home the freestyle win. Weston Anderson gets a close second. Now into the overall, it would be Brianna Mahan taking that racing win, finding herself on the pod, but it was a very close event because all of those top 5 competitors stay within 4 points of each other, and Brianna takes it away from Brandon by only 1 point. Another important thing to note for event 1 is Weston and Team Gravedigger play second to last, which is going to be something to look out for when you look at those points implications. Moving into Show 2, Saturday afternoon, we kick things off in JCB Racing with Weston Anderson. Moving into two-wheel skills, those two drivers continue to be the story of the night, but we're going to see that switch, and Brandon Kalushka takes home that win, pushing Weston Anderson into second by only very close competition, but Brandon Kalushka's creativity, I would say, is what makes the difference there. Moving into best upright trick, Scott Murray finds himself winning it again, and he would just ride that wave because he would also win best trick, sweeping the day. And moving into freestyle, Weston Anderson gets back into the swing of things and takes home a second win on the day. In the end, Team Gravedigger gets the overall with 31 points, and Team Zombie once again ending up in second. Brandon Kalushka, Chandler Hyder staying consistent for the weekend. Finally, we move into the last show, Saturday evening, and there are some stories with this show. Now, in JCB Racing, we see Weston Anderson take out Fernando Martinez for his second racing win in a row. But one thing to note is after or at some point during timed racing, something must have gone wrong with Brandon Kalushka's truck because he will not be returning for the rest of the event. that is something to keep in mind for points. Moving into two-wheel skills, Weston Anderson continues his domination, taking home that win. But look out for the rookies. Charlie Falk in the third, keeping it close in the Classroom Crusher, was second place. In FMX, Scott Murray does it again. In fact, he successfully won all 4 FMX competitions on Saturday, and he would, of course, win both those here on Saturday night. But some other notable things here is we actually see Classroom Crusher getting both second places in this last show. Finally, in freestyle, Fernando Martinez would get it done with a 9.426, putting Weston Anderson in second place for the only time in that event, but it wouldn't matter. Weston and Noah Balkin still find themselves at the top, getting 34 points. And for the first time, we don't see Brandon Tolushka in second because he dropped to last after he was not able to make it to the rest of the event.
Yes, so as you've mentioned there, a whole lot of drama, a lot of storylines coming out of this weekend. Tough luck with what happened with the Zombie team and Brandon Tolushka that last event. But Scott Murray is pulling the Megalodon team for the Freestyle Mania series. I mean, he's won all but 1 or 2 best trick competitions, but he has been dominant this year on the FMX side of things. And also, Weston Anderson and Noah Bakken, they had a rough go the first event, but slowly on Saturday, they have been able to pick up the pace some more. I got a few more things to point out from this event, but first I'm going to ask Brett, what were his main takeaways from Freestyle Mania in Albany?
I will say, my biggest takeaway from the show was from Friday evening, Chandler Hyder getting a win. That is awesome because, to put it in the nicest way possible, Chandler sucks. He's no good at all. So to see him pull out a win, I mean, he has been last or second to last in every competition this year. So that is cool for Team Zombie, for him to finally pull out a win, because for the most part, he has been dragging that team down. As much as Scott has been carrying Team Megalodon, Chandler has been doing the opposite of that for Team Zombie. They are second to last right now, I believe, in the points. And if it weren't for FMX, Brandon would probably be in the top 4. So maybe top 5. But it's too bad, but good for Chandler to get a little bit of redemption, and maybe he carries this.
Yeah, congratulations to Chandler Hyder on that win, also preventing a Scott Murray sweep for all the FMX competitions this weekend. Now we're about to go into our current point standings, but before we do that, we have some championship points deductions. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, we have infractions to talk about. First, Fernando Martinez and El Toro Loco on the Friday event suffered a boundary infraction in racing. That is a 7-point deduction considering he was in second place. All his points gone from that competition. Weston Anderson in the afternoon show on Saturday, a rule infraction. Okay, guys, can you please just point out exactly what he did wrong instead of just pointing out the infraction? But regardless, it's an 8-point deduction. And here's the crazy one, and I'll get you guys pointers after this. Chucky Pauken, Classroom Crusher, Saturday afternoon, suffered a boundary infraction in skills, a 16-point deduction. Guys, I haven't even gotten your pointers or your thoughts on points deductions in general, but what do you have to say about that?
Okay, well, my biggest issue that I have with points deductions in general is that typically they don't say where the number of points comes from. And so this is what's strange to me. We see Chucky Pauken getting a 16-point deduction. So my first guess with that would be, okay, maybe he hit the wall or caused some venue damage. That would be an understandable reason for a bigger point deduction. But just recently, we saw Kristen Anderson hit the wall and get less than 10 points deducted. So I wish we could have more of an understanding about what this means. Maybe he did it multiple times. I don't entirely understand the system.
Yeah, I have to agree with Jack. I'm actually all for points deductions because I am a huge proponent of legitimizing Monster Jam as a sport as much as possible. I know that it can never be fully legitimized, but really making it as legitimate as a sport as possible. And part of that is having penalties, right? Excuse me. So, but what I don't like is how the penalties are so just like fluctuate. You know, like in one day, it's almost like whoever's controlling the points and the deductions is just like has good days and bad days. Like some days, like for example, earlier in the beginning, I think it was the first night in Albany, Fern actually went up into the wall protection and did venue damage, and he got what was his deduction? 8 points.
I think. Wait, boundary infraction in racing for Saturday, that was 7 points because he finished in second place.
That's so weird because that probably did as much stadium damage as possible. So unless Chucky like drove up into the stands or something, I don't think it's possible for him to do as much or even equal to what Fern did. So I don't understand where that 16 comes from. No, of course it wasn't live stream, so I don't know what he did. But I can only imagine it, unless it was something horrible, which I don't think it would be, especially knowing how controlled he drives. That doesn't really make sense to me. But again, I don't know the full picture because I don't know what actually happened.
Yeah, but all we know is like the new points deduction system, like it used to be like 5-point deductions from 2020 to 2025 or whatever. Now it's how many points you earn for that competition. If it's like above 5 points, all those are taken away. Like we've seen an example at a San Diego show this year. Bari Musauer won a freestyle competition, but he cartwheeled onto Tech Deck Rec Deck. So all his 12 freestyle points were taken away. So I guess I understand that, like how many points you earn, that's how you're taken away. But the 16 or the 24 point deductions, that is something that I kind of have a concern about. And it would be nice to have some more explanation on like what goes on with that kind of process, like determining like how many points you get or why you're getting deducted that many points. But
and I don't know who watched the Inside Monster Jam podcast with Chris Kohler this past week, but one point that Chris made that I think was incredible is he said he's fine with point deductions, but when it happens in freestyle, don't end the run. Let the truck continue, let them finish the run for the fans, and then deduct the points. But no point in just taking away from the quality of the show, just, and then deducting the points. Either in the run and don't deduct points, or let them finish running and then deduct points. But don't do both. That's just lame for the fans and for the driver.
Yeah, I can understand that to a certain point. Like, well, if they cause like major damage, then yeah, shut the truck off right there. But if you're like, say you're doing a Morgan and Morgan backflip and he hit the container, don't shut him off for that. Let them keep going. I mean, that bounce, that rebound is completely out of their control. So, and even flat tires, I guess depending on how early it is in the run or how late it is in the run, they'll shut you off for that. But that's another discussion for another day. But after that, we are going to take a look at the current point standings right now, and then some previews for what's coming up this weekend. Again, only one points tour actually ran and counted for points, but we'll take a look at all of them just real quickly. And once again, your International Series champion, Blake Granger, Monster Point Dalmatian, yay, World Finals invite. Your standings, we'll take a look at the ones that are still remaining the same. So Stadium East, your top 5 is Colt Stevens Thunder Roars with 330. Chris Kohler and Mayhem with 345. Adam Anderson Gravedigger is in 3rd place with 362. So right now it's a competition between Camden Murphy, Classroom Crusher with 418, and Tristan England, JCB Digatron with 439. Stadium Series West, your top 5 in that point series is Bryce Kenny, Tech Deck Rec Deck with 366. Dalton Weiner, Shell Shocked, has 369. Bari Musauer and the Zombie Stars and Stripes with 396. Right now, it is an 8-point battle between Tyler Meniga, Gravedigger, 441, and Ryan Anderson, Son of a Digger, 449. Arena Series West, it is Alex Barden in 5th place with Earthshaker, 630. Tim Hall Jr., Jurassic Attack, 738. Matt Cody, Gravedigger, 780. Armando Castro, El Toro Loco, with 853. Right now, it's a runaway by Blake Granger, Monster by Dalmatian, with 919. In Arena Series East, right now, in number 5 is Kristen Anderson, Gravedigger, 468. Triton Robbins, Crazy Train, in 4th with 514. Cody Socio Dragon, 3rd place with 538. MJ Solorio, El Toro Loco, with a 619. And so with a 104-point lead with 723, it's John Zimmer Jr., Terminal Velocity. So the only point series that updated is Freestyle Mania, Arena Series Central. Number 5 right now is Chucky Pocket in the Classroom Crusher, moving up with 978. Scott Murray and his sidekick Michaela Toluchka leading Megalodon with 1,002 points. Fernand Martinez, 3rd place. El Toro Loco with 1,160. Second place is Tony Oaks, TJ Tiffany, JCB Diggertron with 1,229. So leading the pack is Weston Anderson, Noah Bakken, Gravedigger with 1,326. Right now, boys, we have about 2 months left in these respective point series. Who would you say is the most dominant-looking points champion right now? Probably has the most momentum heading in the World Finals. Who would you say that would be?
For you. So if we're talking about just monster truck driver, it's got to be Weston Anderson. Because him being 97 points ahead of second place is impressive until you realize that he's being kind of slightly nerfed by a biker. And yes, Noah's actually not one of the worst bikers, not even close, which is yet another thing. Also, why didn't they pair Weston with the worst biker? Like, I know they essentially created Freestyle Mania to make his point series closer. Why not pair him with Chandler then? Just please, like, why couldn't you guys have done that? But that being said, Noah's still kind of on the lower end of the bikers that they have on that tour, so that is holding Weston back. I'm sure he'd be in like 150 to maybe even 200 point lead right now if it weren't for bikers, especially because second place Tony Oaks has had TJ Tiffany, who's been really good, and Josh Hedford, who is like the FMX god. That dude was insane. But in terms of points, Zimmer Jr. has the biggest gap. I'm kind of surprised. I thought Blake would have the biggest gap by now, but Armando is holding his own, and I think Blake also had Ryan Vargas filling in for a couple weeks. Stadium East is looking interesting-ish. I worry about Atlanta in terms of Camden losing any amount of hope, just because I feel like Atlanta is one of those shows where conservatism can really lead to success. I know that it's the type of speedway that really makes you want to just launch it, but historically we've seen Tristan England succeed in Atlanta, and Camden has a very boom or bust style of driving, which I think could lead to some busts in Atlanta. So I hope that doesn't happen for him, because I'm cheering for him to win that. And then, of course, Stadium West is our best point series. I think Tyler's going to end up making up those 8 points. He's just a little bit better than Ryan, I think, in just about every competition. But they only have, 3 more weeks to go. SoFi, Glendale, Nashville, and
they do have Denver coming up too.
Maybe Pittsburgh. What's up? Sorry.
They also have Denver coming up too. Mile High Stadium.
Oh, Denver. Okay, yeah. So they have plenty of events left, and I think Menega will end up taking back that lead. But Ryan's been good this year. No, it's anybody's game. Jack?
Yeah. I do think that this is probably front to back the most competitive season Monster Jam has ever seen. Now, I know you said you thought Weston was the most competitive, or not competitive, but dominant. I'm going to argue that's Blake. Now, I know the points don't directly reflect that, but from pretty much every show that Blake has been in this year, he's been using the arenas the way we have never seen any driver use them. Weston's come close before, but Blake is on another level. I have never seen someone so consistently get probably a good 25 feet high in some arenas as Blake Granger can. It's really completely unseen. I don't think Tucson has ever seen air quite like the air he just brought. And, of course, that wow moment as well. Of course, we haven't seen too much of West since then, but Blake has just been on another level. The international tour confirmed that, and I have never been so excited to see what the future of a career looks like as Blake. Armando, though, he has definitely been tightening that gap a little bit. So I think this could be a good season for Armando to finish out, even if he doesn't win. Arena East, this one coming into the season was the one that I think we were all really looking forward to. Not because necessarily every driver being really good, but every driver having a personality that the fans are a big fan of, or a big storyline happening in their career. Of course, John Zimmer Jr., so young into his career, consistently landing at the top of point series is completely unseen for any independent driver, and it's really making a big change and what the expectations for the future of Monster Jam are. MJ Solorio, he's still continuing to innovate as well. Of course, not quite as much as we've seen from Fernando, but he has the same consistency and is super fun to watch. And all sorts of other rising stars and veterans on that tour. Series Central, coming into the year, I thought it was going to be the most fun one. And in terms of wow factors, I'd say it is. But there has been a lot of truck issues and stuff like that. And the FMX kind of makes it a little difficult to follow along with, I'd say. But Weston Anderson, he really is unstoppable. And every time I see a Arena Central show, he has something crazy going on. Of course, I'm not sure how Albany. He did have a little bit of rough luck here or there, but again, his domination stayed the same. Tony Oaks, though, this is the best he's ever looked, just across the board. Super fun to watch. And Chucky Pauken, again, even though the points aren't reflecting it, and even Brandon Solushka, too, are some of the most consistent independent drivers in the entire sport right now, and they're super fun to watch. Now, Series West, of course, this is probably the biggest toss-up ever. Every time Ryan and Tyler are on a tour together, maybe except for 2022, because, of course, Tyler hadn't done as much stadiums yet, but it's always such a close race. And there's really no way to look at this list and say, it's going to go to Ryan or it's going to go to Tyler. It's going to come down to so many factors. I will say Tyler's had the more consistent skills game, and even though that's just one competition, when it's only a 10-point gap, less than 10 points, one competition will make that difference. So I think Tyler does have a slight edge, but of course I'd love to see Ryan take it home on an anniversary. Another big thing to know with this tour is everyone sitting between third place and sixth place are less than 40 points of each other. That's pretty close to one event worth of points. So this is the most competitive we have ever seen a tour from top to bottom. Of course, once you get to like Jamie Garner and Caleb Blood, you don't see that same level. But even looking at Mike Christensen, he's within 200 points, which isn't all that bad. I'd say that's main field worthy performance. And then looking at Series East, I really want to see Camden take it home, but I think Atlanta definitely will be a big factor here, because Atlanta is one of those places that it'll really get in your head. You see a floor that big and you think, I'm just going to go for it. I'm not going to look back. I'm just going to try to do the biggest moves. And that can be really cool, but that can go really badly. You try to do a big move too early and that truck breaks, you now have gone from winning freestyle to getting last place in freestyle. And as much as I really want Camden to take the series home, he is kind of the way, or the kind of driver that I think would drive that way. You know, we saw it in Glendale 2024. He won racing. He won skills. Going into freestyle, he pushed it too hard and ended up braking in like 50 seconds and got almost last place because of it. I really don't want to see that same thing happening here, but Tristan is just so consistent, and he knows he's consistent, and it really pushes him into an interesting position where he knows what he has to do, and he does it because he doesn't have to push all that hard. But with what I was just saying about everyone being super close on West, we see that with these two. Everyone from Jim Kohler all the way up to Tristan England are within 200 points of each other, which for a stadium series isn't that big of a gap. When you're getting 36 points a show, obviously 200 points, you're not going to make it back up, but it's showing that all these drivers are really within roughly 20 points of each other up until you get to, the top five. And it's just crazy how close it all is. And Colt, Stevens, Chris, or Adam could end on podium, and there's really no way to say because they've all been so consistent. It's going to be a big year for some young guns like Chris, like Mike, like Jamie. I'm really excited to see what happens here.
Yeah, this has been, no doubt, a very awesome year for Points Series. For all of them to say better than 2025 or 2024 for that matter. But yeah, I'm very excited to be heading back to Atlanta this year, getting to see a show on Saturday. Just because Atlanta, it's so unique and it's very different. Like, these stadium tours, now each of them are running their own track. So they're kind of like knowing what kind of techniques they need to be using throughout the turns or the berms, depending on if their track has berms. But Atlanta, completely different story. Different track in terms of racing style and more obstacles added for freestyle, crush cars, buses, multiple backflip ramps. And you also have that send-it factor. Who is going to go that big enough in Atlanta, not just for the fans of the scores, but also for points? So Atlanta is going to be very awesome to look forward to, as well as these other events that are going to be occurring this coming weekend, the second full weekend of April. Starting off with Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Live Glow and Fire, 2 locations this weekend. One international at the Birmingham, United Kingdom, Utilita Arena. This is also where Monster Jam Ramped Up has gone a few times, but this weekend it's occupied by Hot Wheels. And in the domestic tour, only one running this weekend, and that's at Tallahassee, Florida, at the David L. Tucker Civil Center. Moving on to Monster X Tour, they are going to be at Grinley, California, at the Butte County Fair. This lineup consists of Boss Skater Gerard Compton, who will also be doing double duty driving Monster Patrol. You also have Carolina Crusher with Rob Poutre and Werewolf with the Ghost Stanley Hernandez. We now move on to Monster Truck Bash. Their logo is an AI-generated ice cream cone. What are we doing? Anyways, they'll be in Dublin, Virginia at the New River Valley Fairgrounds one day, April 11th. You got 2 Holmans driving. Ryan Holman with Amped Up and Josh Holman driving Rescue Racer. You also have David Reif, Awesome Kong, Brandon Duro, Bad News Travels Fast, and Shane Grunseth driving the Metal Monster. We move on to...
Real quick, if any people are listening and considering going to the Dublin, Virginia show, don't. I've been to that show before. It's literally the track is a glorified gravel parking lot. It's nothing. Don't go. Waste of time.
Also, don't go to this show. Renegade Monster Trucks at Mechanicsville, Maryland, at the Potomac Speedway. Hurricane Force with Steve Thompson. Jurassic Attack, Preston Collins. Stinger Unleashed, CJ Ratu. Velociraptor, Preston Perez. And War Wizard with RJ Turner behind the wheel. We have Malicious Monster Truck Tour. Once again, the Bill Payne Camp at Phoenix, Arizona. The Arizona State Fair. Joe Briggs with Elbows Up. Miles Parker, Identity Theft. Gavin Sell, Mixed Up. Bill Payne, Rockstar. And Nick Jones with Spitfire. 2 locations.
One thing to note with this show, this is going to be possibly the first mud show in Arizona Fairgrounds history. It's supposed to rain all weekend. It's going to be interesting.
Oh my gosh, that rain in Arizona?
You bet.
What?
In this economy?
In the Big 26? Oh my gosh. Well, that I'll definitely need to be looking out for some highlights from that show as well. But anyways, moving on to 2 sets of shows for the Monster Truck Wars. Crosby, Texas at the Crosby Fair and Rodeo Arena. This has Locomotive Justin Murphy, Outlaw Adam Wilson, Shark Attack Jerry Ferrater, and T-Rex Devin Jones. They'll also be at Bakersfield, California at the Kern County Fairgrounds with Locomotive Colton Budd, Outlaw Brandon Pizzo, Shark Attack Kaylee Angstrom, T-Rex Colton Fowler. So, if you're planning on sitting close to the walls, don't move.
Yeah, I'm also seeing on this lineup sheet, the first driver has the last name Bud, and the second driver has the first name Brandon. I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, but all I would say is if you're going to the Bakersfield, California show, maybe don't take your children to pit party.
Yeah, and especially don't ride any of the ride trucks that they have, because we've seen how that situation went. Anyways,
Here in Arizona, someone fell out of one of them.
Yeah, it's like a Monster Truck Wars pit party is like, do you want to go get diddled by the drivers, or do you want to go fall out of the back of a ride truck and break every bone in your body? Either way, it's no good. Just don't go to wars, guys. It's not worth your money.
oh my gosh, but one tour that might be worth your money is the Monster Truck Insanity Next Level Tour at Hot Springs, Arkansas. Arkansas. Garland County Fairgrounds with the GOAT Colton Kaiser and American Scout, Josh Baumgartner, Mechanical Mischief, and he got the Jones, Trip Jones, Smashosaurus, and Tim MF Jones with Tailgater. The 2X Live Tour will be in Callahan, Colorado at the El Paso County Raceway. El Paso in Colorado. Anyways, Brutal, Jeremiah Paras, Jekyll and Hyde, Corey Keinel, Roy Rex, Mike Nugent, and everybody, Shark Bite, Dan the Man Dahlgren. Yeah. We love Dan the Man Dahlgren. Anyways, moving on to the All-Star Monster Truck Tour at Chattanooga, Tennessee, Ringgold, Georgia, whatever you prefer. It's the Tennessee-Georgia state line at the Brainerd Motorsports Park. I will be there at the Sunday show on my way back from Atlanta, so looking forward to seeing this tour's championship event. You got High Tide with the GOAT Elliott Miller, Kraken, your current points leader with Nick Pagliarulo, Lomas Madness Athena Kozel, Misfire Brooke Pagliarulo, and Rat Attack Jacob Ladwig. I am looking to see who is going to come out on top of this tour because it has been Kraken leading all year, but behind by less than 50 points is Jacob Ladwig and the Rat Attack. So if he can stay healthy, talking about the Sunday show in Maryville, if he can stay healthy, then maybe Rat Attack can build some momentum to catch Kraken. So I'll be interested to see.
In Maryville?
What's that?
What happened at the Sunday show in Maryville?
Oh, yeah, the Sunday show. I don't think I told you guys. So on the Saturday show, Rat Attack won every competition. Best trick, racing, and freestyle. Sunday, Rat Attack did not compete at all. He broke the front driveline, or just the front axle in general, and in intros, and did not compete in the entire event. So that is why I say, please, Jacob, keep your truck healthy. Anyways, moving on to all of our Monster Jam events this weekend. All 5 tours will be running. Only 4 will count for points. And we'll start off with the one that does not count for points, and that is Florence, South Carolina at the Florence Center. This is where Arena Series East will be at. And once again, no MJ Solorio, no Cody Saucier. But you do have Kristen, Logan Ashline, the Robbins, and the Zimmers. And this is when we do our top 3 picks. So we're going to pick the 3 drivers from each Monster Jam Tour that are going to be performing the best in that weekend. So I'll start it off with Florence, South Carolina. The 3 drivers, my top 3 for this weekend, obviously John Zimmer Jr., points leader in terminal velocity. We'll go with Triton Robbins and the Crazy Train. It will also go with John Zimmer Sr. and the Megalodon. So, Brett, Jackinator, which one of you want to go first? Who are your top 3?
I'll take this one. Of course, I don't think anyone's going to be in disagreement with John Zimmer Jr. having to take that top spot. Number two, I'm going to go with Zimmer Sr. He has been really showing some positive change lately. He's one of those veterans that has only improved over time, and I think he's going to carry that momentum. Third, I'm going to go Logan Ashline. I mean, come on. Almost 2 overalls. That's a big deal.
Yeah. I'm going to follow that up with saying Logan Ashline. I'm actually going to skip Zimmer Jr. He seems to slow it down. I'm not saying he just books it in, but he seems to slow it down a little bit for non-points events. So I'm going to pass him over. I'm going to say Logan. I'm going to say Triton Robbins. And I'm going to, of course, say Kristen Anderson because South Carolina, I know it's not North Carolina, but both the Carolinas are digger country, and the digger drivers always go crazy in the Carolinas. So I'm going to say Kristen Anderson is my third.
Yeah, the Carolinas, they love that black and green wrecking machine. So Kristen Anderson will definitely be getting a lot of love from her fans this weekend. But now we are going to transition into our first of 4-point series that actually matter, and that is Freestyle Mania at Columbus, Ohio, the Schottenstein Center. All 8 drivers, all 8 FMX riders will be in action this weekend. And Brett, I'm going to start off with you. Who are your top 3 drivers or teams for this weekend in Columbus?
Yeah, actually, we'll be in attendance. Going to be behind the scenes a little bit. But I'm also glad that you know how to pronounce the Schottenstein Center, because I was going to say like Scotchensen or something. Scotchenstein. Anyway, top 3 drivers. Leader, Weston Anderson. Second, I got to go with Fernando Martinez. I've seen him at both Rosemont this year and Toledo. That dude is insane behind the wheel. The points never reflect it for some weird reason, maybe because of the biker, but he is consistently one of the best, most technical drivers in the sport. And for my number 3, I'm going to go with Kylie Kenton. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go with Tony Oaks and JCB Digatron. Actually, I'm kidding again. That one was unintentionally kidding. I'm going with Chucky Puckett, Classroom Crusher. The dude's insane.
Yeah, one thing to point out, and then I'll pass on to Jackinator for his picks. This place, Columbus, Ohio, I believe, this is where 2 years ago, Weston Anderson, on the Friday night show, if you guys remember, he just plowed right into the log ramp and just did a backflip. Like, no 8-pack or anything. Do you guys remember that?
I thought that was a Canadian show, but yeah.
Yeah, that is where Weston, I think he had rear steer issues the entire freestyle run, but still trying to make the most of it, getting big air, going in reverse, and then he just smacks right into the log ramp and just does a backflip before he eventually rolled over. So will we see that again from Weston this week in Schottenstein Center? We will see. Only time will tell. But I'll pass off to Jackinator now. Who are your top 3?
All right, so going for number 1, this is more wishful thinking than probably probable odds, but it's Ohio. It's the hometown. We have to go with Charlie Pocken the third.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's Ohio. Last time he was in a kind of hometown show, he got an overall. He is my top pick. Number 2, I'm going to mirror Brett here. Fernando Martinez has been on a roll lately, and I really think, if not in the points, in terms of his performance, he's going to have some of the best moments of this weekend. Third, I'm going to go Brandon Toluchka. He has won probably 15 skills challenges this year, if not more. I think if he can keep that momentum going, he might get an overall, depending on how Chandler does.
Yeah, my top 3, it's been really tough because you've been seeing a lot of the Feld drivers going down and some of the independents rising up in the points. So my top 3, I'll have to go with the points leader, of course. Team Gravedigger, Weston Anderson, Noah Bakken. Second one, I'm going to have to go with Tony Oaks, TJ Tiffany, and the JCB Digatron. It's just been a dynamic duo all year long. And then third, I'm going to have to go with the Chuck Bus, Classroom Crusher. I think Chucky Pocken and Drew Slough, they're going to get the job done this weekend. Now we move on to Arena Series West, making their way to the Midwest at Des Moines, Iowa, the Casey Center. Just one thing to note, we did see a social media update from Ashley Sanford, and getting to see like what kind of state of mind she's in right now. We do wish her the very best in recovery, but it is Angelina Knock right now, still taking her place on that series. But other than that, everybody else, the gang on Arena Series West, is still in competition. And I'll start with Jackinator on this one. Who is your top 3 for Arena West in Des Moines?
All right, well, Blake Granger's in first. I don't have any doubt in saying that. I'm going to kind of mirror the points here. I'm going to put Armando Castro too. Not only in raw consistency in terms of how much he can win, but even he's been getting a little innovative. The whole Arena Toro team has been pulling out some new stuff with it. Third, I got to go with the man, Tim Hall Jr. He's had some better events and some less than good events this year, but I feel like every time he's in the Midwest, he steps it up a little bit. So I'm interested in that dinosaur.
And then we'll pass it on to Brett. Who do you got in your top three?
Well, number one, of course, I have to go with my man, TMFHJ.
Yeah.
Tim MFing Hall Jr., the GOAT, the best driver on arenas right now. But of course, number two, I have to go with the best driver in all of Monster Jam right now, Blake Granger in the Monster Mutt Dalmatian. I think, without a doubt, I would find it very hard to argue against him being the best driver in the whole sport right now. The dude is on another level. And number three, this might be slightly a curveball, nothing crazy, but I'm going to go Alex Barton in the Earthshaker. I think he will get one or two racing wins this weekend. He's also, by the way, my pick to win LCQ this year at World Finals. He is one of the best racers in the Arena Series.
Heck yeah.
All right, well, for my picks, I'm also going to go with Blake Granger and Monster Mutt Dalmatian because reasons. I'm also going to go with the big blue dinosaur, Jurassic Attack, Word Up with Tim Hall Jr. And then for the third driver, I'm also going to go with Matt Cody and the black and green Wrecking Machine Gravedigger. So that is it for the Arena Series. Now we move on into both Stadium Series in action this weekend. Starting off with Stadium West at the SoFi Stadium, one of the most expensive venues that Monster Jam goes to all year long, at Inglewood, California, just outside of Los Angeles. All 12 of the trucks and drivers will be in action this weekend. Who's going to be my top three? Well, Mingus, 1, Ryan, 2, and then for number 3, you can call me a homer if you want. I'm going to go with Knoxville man Dalton Weiner and the Shell Shocked. He has been consistently near the top of his game all year long and has not rolled over the body once. Will he keep that body clean this weekend in LA? We're going to find out. But Brett, who is your top 3 for Stadium West?
Do you even need to ask who my number 1 is? It is the GOAT, the best driver, Corey Rummel, Bailey Circus, my dog, my robo dog. So he's my number 1. I genuinely do believe he has another 1 to 2 freestyle wins coming this year, along with a racing win. I'd like to see him shock a lot of people in racing. I think it could happen, whether it be this weekend, Glendale, Nashville, who knows. But number 2, I got to go with Menninga. He's just so dominant. I totally can see him winning another. But this is for my third pick, I'm going to go with Bryce Kenny in the Tech Deck Rec Deck. I can practically envision him right now winning freestyle in SoFi. That truck is a very LA-coded truck, and I see it happening. Book it right now. Bryce is winning freestyle in SoFi.
Jack and Aaron, who's your top 3?
So I'm going to kind of use some Inglewood history for this one. My top pick, I'm going to have to go with Ryan because first time there, 2023, he does a freestyle run with, I think, 3 sidewall saves in it. So that's already setting a bar. World Finals, he does 2 barrel rolls. And then last year, he pulled off one of the best saves we have seen post-2020. So I'm going to have to go with Ryan for my number 1. Number 2, I'm going to take some inspiration here about something Brett mentioned. I'm going to say Bryce Kenny, specifically because he mentioned LA. And I'm going to bring up what Bryce always says. This truck is not a character truck. It's a culture truck. And, I mean, when you're in the heart of California, that is the skater world. And I think Bryce is really going to bring out something cool. Maybe he'll even land his first successful kickflip. We'll have to wait and see what he can do. Third spot here is an interesting one. This is such an interesting tour just because you never know what they're going to do. Now, the smart thing to do would be to say Tyler Menninga, but I really want to see Corey Rummel finally get to pull it home here. He has been having wow moment after wow moment, but he can't seem to get the consistency just yet. I think one good skills combo is all he needs to break that barrier and get that overall win. All we need is a little bit more from skill for Corey, and I think we'll see him somewhere at the top.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Corey Rummel could do back in full-time action this weekend. And I can't wait to see him at Nashville as well. But this week, it's all about SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. And for Stadium East, oh boy, this is the week. This is the place that all the monster truck world is going to have their eyes on. Atlanta, Georgia, Echo Park Speedway. Everybody's going to be sending it 200 feet in the air. There's going to be a lot of body parts flying off, a lot of wheels coming loose. I'm going to give it to Jackinator first, and then Brent, and then me. So, Jackinator, who's your top 3 in Atlanta?
All right, well, it's Atlanta. It's the biggest floor in all of Monster Jam, probably history. Now, if there's anyone who's going to take advantage of that ability to go big, it's got to be Adam Anderson. The amount of times we have seen him clear the entire freestyle obstacle this year is insane. We have never seen something like that. In fact, he's the only driver to clear it consistently. Some have tried and crashed doing so. You know, Tristan England, Cynthia Gauthier, they've tried to clear it, and it's gone terribly wrong. Adam has done it without fail. He is my number 1 pick on a floor of this scale. Now, number 2, I'm going to have to go Tristan England, just because he has that raw success factor. He always can win. It's very rare he gets truck issues because he doesn't drive in a way that would break it. He knows exactly what he needs to do to win, and he does it, and it always works. So he's my number 2 pick. Now, number 3 is interesting. My real gut pick here is Chris Kohler, because he's making that new design for Mayhem, or at least he's been teasing one. But it seems like whenever an independent releases a new scheme, say Zach Garner and I want to say El Paso, or when the Green Machine first debuted, it always seems to go wrong. As much as I want to pick Chris, I'm going to actually go with Mike Pagliarulo. He's already had several overall wins on the season, and if anyone's going to take advantage of a floor of this scale, it will be him. That's it. I'm going to pass it on to Brett.
Yeah, those are some good picks. I'm actually got to switch mine up a little bit so I'm not just exactly copying you. But number 1, you know what? I will switch it up a little bit. Number 1 is someone who I am fascinated to see how he does in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's someone who's never been to Echo Park Speedway before, and that is G.I. Joe Foley in El Toro Loco. He is known for sending it, and this is a track that facilitates very well sending it. So I think we are going to see some major air, and I think poor old Avenger 2 might commit suicide after this week, because he's going to destroy that thing. My number 2 pick, even though Jack already picked him, I have to pick him again. The GOAT, Adam Anderson, Gravedigger. He has had maybe consistently the best air of this tour this year. And yeah, he's going to do something really stupid. Number 3, I have a couple. I want to pick Camden, but I'm just worried that he's going to fall on his face. I just can see it happening. I also want to pick Tristan just for success, but I feel like since we're not picking just based on points, I think he'll probably come out of this weekend with the most points, but I don't think he's going to do anything exciting worth a crap. That's usually the Tristan England formula. He'll, maybe get 3rd or 4th in racing, win skills, and then have the most boring Frank Krimmel freestyle you've ever seen, but it'll score in 4th or 5th or maybe 3rd, and he'll walk out as the overall event champion. So that being said, I'm not going to pick him because I don't think he will excite the fans the most. So I'm going to pick the other person that I think will excite the fans the most, and that is Mr. No Guts, No Glory, Mike Pagliarulo in Excalibur. He's just been so good in freestyle this year. When he is on, he is on. And I think close to home in Florida, I think as close as they're going to get for the rest of the year to Florida, I do believe. He's gonna also launch it. Maybe have a couple barrel rolls, but the fans will get their money's worth out of Mike Pagliarulo in Excalibur. Jeremy?
All right. How can I top off those picks? Well, my top 3, this is the first time I've done this on Off the Track this year. I'm going all independents, buddy. I'm going to go with Mike Pagliarulo in Excalibur as number 1. I'm going to go with number 2, Chris Kohler in Mayhem. Looking forward to seeing that new body. What I think it's going to be is a Hardy paint scheme because, down in Georgia, everybody loves the Hardy Automotive Group. So a Hardy Mayhem would be cool to see. But also for number 3, Atlanta's known for extreme air. Do you know who else is known for Extreme Air? Jim Kohler. Mr. Excitement. That massive tank he calls Avenger, a 1957 Chevy Bel Air, he's going to send it 500 feet in the air, and hopefully it stays in one piece. But I'm excited to see how those three can handle that big Atlanta track. Looking forward to seeing all 12 of these drivers on Saturday. A 5 o'clock show last year at 5 p.m. Brett, you were there. Those drivers were having a tough time trying to see through that sun at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, trying to navigate through the freestyle ramps. So this year will be a different scenario. We'll have to find out. But ladies and gents, we are about to wrap up on this show. But, whenever I'm leading the pack on the show, I like to do something a little bit fun, a little bit extra. Today, we might do something that can spark some debate. So let's take a look at, it's never too early to pick who's going to be getting into the Monster Jam World Finals and who's going to be missing out, because we're already kind of starting to get some invites. Of course, Blake Granger already locked in his invitation. But, whenever you watch the selection show for the college football playoff for the March Madness bracket, they always have a list of teams, the last few teams in, and the first few teams out. That's kind of like what we are going to do today. We're each going to pick 2 drivers, the last 2 drivers to make it into the World Finals main field of 28 trucks, and who are going to be the first 2 out that are going to be missing out on the main field. May still get in the last chance qualifier, but will not be getting in initially. So, for example, I'm going to start off here. My last 2 drivers that'll make it into the field of 28. I'm going to have to say Coy Rummel and Ringling Bailey Circa. I think by the littlest bit of a margin, he is going to get one of the last few invites in the main field. He has stepped up his A game, especially being a failed company driver into a company truck. But he's also been having to compete against the likes of Ryan Anderson, Tyler Miniga, Barry Musauer, Zach Garner. Currently 7th in the points, but I think his performance this year will be enough to put him in the main field. And then my second driver to be the last one in, I think you guys will like this one. I'm going to have to go with Tim Hall Jr. in the Jurassic Attack. He is just a completely different animal this year. And I'm sure that Team Throttle Monster would be more than happy to have another one of their trucks in the World Finals, because I'm sure Dalton Weiner, with his performance, he'll probably get in. But we need to keep the Jurassic Attack streak going. So I'll go with Tim Hall Jr. as my second one in. Now my first 2 out. First one out. I'm going to have to say, unfortunately, the Triton Robbins in the Crazy Train. Just something about, a second-year driver in Monster Jam. He has been very competitive this year, but I got this feeling that Feld's going to do this sort of thing of leaving Triton Robbins out, but putting Chris and Anderson in. But maybe, you don't know. They might surprise me, but Triton Robbins will probably be the first one out for me. And then the second one out, it's Chucky Pocket in a Classroom Crusher. I think he'll be turning some heads when it comes to the discussion of who should be in the World Finals and who should be not. I don't think first-year driver Chucky Pocket's going to make it in, but without a doubt, I'm going to see him in the last chance qualifier. But main field, he'll miss out on. That's my last 2 in, first 2 out. Jackinator or Brett, whichever one of you want to go first. Who would your picks be? First 2 in, or last 2 in and first 2 out?
Jack, you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I'll go first, but just first, I have a clarifying question.
Yes.
First 2 out, would that essentially mean the first 2 picked for the LCQ?
Yeah.
So rather than making it in, they're like the first ones on the list for getting into the last chance qualifier?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I think...
Okay. There's a lot of interesting stuff to take into account here. One of them is going to be identity. I think that's going to play a big factor. Like you mentioned the name Kristen Anderson. As much as I'd rather see someone else, I think she's just going to get in. But there are some interesting opinions that I've had about this year's lineup. that I've shared with people here or there. So for my first last in, and this is a very unlikely, probably won't happen, but I'd love to see it one. I'm going to go with Mike Christensen. The reason I
Ooh.
say this is because he already has wins in several competitions. He's only won one other skills competition in his entire career, I believe, at the stadium level before this season. But he has a skills win. He's been super consistent in racing. And one of the factors I've been taking into account when thinking about who's going to get main field is, are they within 200 points of the top spot? Well, when we look at Series West, he is 183 points behind Ryan Anderson, and him sitting top 9. I think it is totally possible that we get our first Mike Christensen main field.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of factors that could play into that. Looking at my second last in, this is going to go over to Team Megalodon, because Megalodon is such a toss-up this year. Now, I can't be completely sure here, and I know we'd all like, but it is a holiday weekend. You never know who will or won't be available or whatever else. My second last in is going to be John Zimmer Sr. Do I think out of that whole lineup of Arena East most deserving one? No, and the points do reflect that. I would rather see, just that podium. However, I think if anyone's going to represent Megalodon and it weren't to be John Gordon, John Zimmer Sr. is definitely the next one in that spot. Now I'm going to throw it over to the first out. This is kind of an interesting one. I'm going to have maybe some slightly debatable picks here. First one's going to be Kayla Blood. Her performance, ever since being in Sparkle Smash, has continued to decline, and that is reflected in the points. And with that being said, Jamie Sullivan performing so well this year, for it being her first stadium season and being top 8, that is a big deal. I think Jamie will get the Sparkle Smash spot, and with that, Kayla will get LCQ, and I think she'll be that first pick for LCQ. And my second first out, I'm going to have to go with, as he's already been mentioned, Tim Hall Jr. He is super consistent, and this has been his best season yet, but it is so hard to beat that trio of Blake, Armando, Matt, especially with them all driving identities that I know Feld is going to want in main field. But Tim Hall Jr. has been so consistent, and, even from my discussions I've had with him, I think everyone's pretty confident we're going to be seeing him in the LCQ this year.
Yeah, something else before we get to Brett, something to mention about Kayla Blood as well. This is kind of like deja vu because we had a similar situation with that happen last year when both Jamie and Kayla were selected. And Kayla Blood last year finished 9th place in her point standings. And right now she is currently sitting in 11th place. Does Feld Entertainment Monster Jam want to keep 2 Sparkle Smash trucks in the main field? I mean, that's pretty hard because you got to consider, yes, Sparkle Smash is a big merchandise truck, but you got to take the real sports and the legitimate points into this discussion. So that'll be very interesting to see, do they keep Kayla Blood in spite of, the identity she drives, or will they actually play it fair and square and give her a kind of a chance to get into the main field, but she's going to have to compete in last stage qualifier in order to get it. That'll be an interesting discussion whenever the selection show comes out. But before we wrap up, let's hand it over to Brett. Who is your last 2 in and first 2 out?
Yeah, this is actually tough because I was also going to say John Zimmer Sr. for in, but I'm going to try and differentiate myself, so I'm going to skip Senior. And I'm going to give it an interesting one. So, Jeremy, you mentioned Corey as one of your last ins. I think, honestly, on the flip side, his teammate, Brianna Mahan, I'm going to put her as one of my last ins. She's had a really disappointing season and memorable. I wouldn't be mad about her being LCQ and Corey being the main field one, but I will say, just given that the identity is new, and I know that she's also dealt with some injuries, my other last stand, I was going to say John Zimmer Sr., but I'll switch it up a little bit, and instead, I'm going to go with this might be very controversial, but I'm going to go with Fernando Martinez.
Ooh,
Actually, no. Scratch that. No, sorry. I'm going to go with MJ Solario. And the reason I say that is he has been so consistent this year. He's been giving Zimmer Jr. a run for his money. Honestly, it's a toss-up between him and Fern, but I'd like to see one of them make main field, and they should. They damn sure should. Fern, it's a toss-up, and I've actually talked to Jack about this pretty recently. It's a toss-up on who's even the better one. Points-wise, MJ consistently does better. But from my experience going to shows, I've gotten better shows and better performances out of Fernando, including last year in the LCQ when he made the finals and almost won. He would have won had he not rolled in that last turn. And if and when he gets stadium experience, he always looks good. But with an LCQ, and I got to imagine that whenever they finally give him seat time in a stadium, he will really impress. So, you know what? It's a coin flip, but I'll actually say Fern. I know the points don't reflect it, but I'll say Fern will get that spot. I think it's more likely that MJ does, but I'd like to see Fern. I'm going with my heart on this one.
Yeah, before you get on to your first two, Al, I did want to say something about MJ, and that he knows how to perform in the most unpredictable of situations. And the first one that comes to mind is last year when Jamie Sullivan had an injury before World Finals, and MJ took Jamie's spot in the skills competition, and he finished on the podium. So if he gets initially in the main field or in one of the competitions, you never know what he has to prove.
I couldn't agree more, and I think it really is a total coin flip. I would be so happy for either of those guys. I actually find it more likely that MJ would make main field than Fern, just given point standings, but I don't know. I could see both of them. So I'll say MJ. I'll go back to my original pick in MJ because I think it's more likely that he's the last in. So MJ and Brianna are my two last ins. And then for my first outs, this one in my mind shouldn't be controversial, but I know it is. I'm going to say Cole Bernard. And I know that there were a lot of people last year that thought that he should have made midfield. I absolutely did not. He had a very forgettable year. All due respect to Cole, I don't mean to trash him at all, but he had a very forgettable year last year. I mean, I can't think of a single highlight that he had last year, and that's continued again this year. Cole's a great guy. I love him, so I don't want to be talking smack or anything, but unfortunately, there just really hasn't been much, if anything, memorable from Black Pearl the last couple of years. Honestly, there was slightly more last year because I think he did get a couple wins last year, but this year there hasn't really been much of anything. So I'm going to say Cole will be relegated to LCQ again, I think deservingly. Now, I was also going to say Kayla, but that should not be controversial at all. I mean, she's last. She's below Jamie Gardner. If she makes main field again, that's a travesty. So I'm not even going to say Kayla because that shouldn't be controversial. Instead, this will be extremely controversial. I don't think it should happen, but I see it happening. I think Tony Oaks is going to get snubbed again. I think it's going to happen. Honestly, and all due respect to Tony, I haven't seen too much highlight-worthy moments out of him this year. He's been incredibly consistent. But I know points he's second. I think he was carried a little bit by his bikers. I'm not sure about TJ, but Josh Hedford, he had him for, I think, 3 weeks. Josh Hedford is one of the best FMX riders I've seen. The dude is incredible. But I think Tony is going to get snubbed again. Should he be in main field? Yes, totally. But there's already a Digatron in main field, and I know they want that to kind of stay Tristan's identity a little bit. So I think Tony will be relegated once again to LCQ. But look out for a special potential Stars and Stripes paint scheme on either Tony or Tristan's truck.
Yeah, well, first of all, I assumed that maybe that we would get a Stars and Stripes JCB Digatron considering the diecast already came out. But if that does happen, looking forward to seeing it. But going back to Tony Oaks, he's been in the industry for 10 years now, and not a single World Finals appearance. He has really gotten the short end of the stick a whole bunch of times in his career. And honestly, I can see him getting snubbed out again. I can picture it already right now. Scott Jordan's doing a whole selection show thingamabob. There are only 2 headshots of drivers from Freestyle Mania that are making it in. Weston and Brianna. Why?
Yep.
Failed. That's why. And then Tony and Fernando get booted to the LCQ. But
This is a really hot take. I would rather see Fern than Tony, though, in main field. And I know you could make the argument Tony, quote-unquote, deserves it more just because of the amount of time he spent behind the wheel. But I think Fernando is one of the most exciting young drivers. And I think once he finally gets on stadiums, give him a year or so stadiums, and he will be at the levels of Tyler Menninga. I really think he has one of the brightest futures in the sport.
oh, absolutely. Love to see these young drivers just continuing to bring their A game on the point series and carrying it into the Salt Lake City Monster Jam World Finals. That is our last two in and first two out. Obviously, things are going to change as the point series are back in full swing and continue to move into the end of April and May and into the World Finals. So, guys, before we wrap up, what are you looking forward to the most this weekend?
Well, I'm looking forward to Columbus. I'll be behind the scenes working the shows there. That'll be fun. And then, of course, getting to witness 5 shows in the, how did you say it, Schottenstein Center?
Yeah, that's it.
In Columbus. I think that's the Ohio State basketball arena, if I'm not wrong. But that'll be cool. I've actually never really been to the city of Columbus before. It's only an hour and a half for me, but only driven through it. So that'll be fun. Get to experience Columbus and get to see yet another weekend with Freestyle Mania. It'll be my 3rd weekend with them this year. So that'll be fun. A lot of fun people on that tour. And yeah, should be a good time.
What about you,
All right,
Jackinator?
well, this is just, there's so many big things happening this weekend. Selfishly, I am going to say I'm very excited for the All-Star Monster Truck Tour here in Arizona. It's always super fun to have the crew back around. You know, every time Chuck puts on a show, best believe it's going to be the best show you've seen. In fact, last time the Straight Up Racing Fleet was here, Bill Payne did Sidewinder save kind of thing, and then there was a truck jump. Just your casual county fair. So I'm super excited for that. But on a more grand scale, I'm super excited to see what Chucky Pauken will do at a hometown show. I think everyone's eyes need to be on Columbus for that exact reason. Atlanta has a few drivers that I think are really going to have some stories. Mike Pagliarulo, of course, as Brett mentioned, Joe Foley, and you know, even just watching the points on Series East is something I'm really looking forward to. Outside of that, I'm just interested to see what wow moments come our way. All 5 tours have been stacked with wow moments. We've never seen anything like it, especially at an arena level. Maybe we'll see another Zimmer Senior backflip. Maybe we'll see another Blake Ranger innovation. You truly never know what to expect in current day Monster Jam. And I'm excited to see all the tours back in action.
Yeah, I'm excited for this weekend. Another doubleheader, and this is only the second time that I've done a doubleheader weekend with both shows in 2 different cities. Atlanta, Georgia on Saturday, Chattanooga, Ringgold on Sunday, so looking forward to that. A lot of good action coming your way this weekend from all these different tours, both in Monster Jam and on the independent side. That is going to do it for us, ladies and gents. Thank you guys for tuning in once again for some more Podster Jam, and we can't wait to come back here next week and talk about what's going on for the rest of the month of April. For Jackinator, for Brett Knackley, I'm Nofagen. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is STSL Off the Track.